Respect and honor, beautiful souls. We are here another day talking to you. I am Brandi L. Bates, and you can find me on Twitter at Soledad Francis, and I'm also on Instagram at Brandi is winning, Brandi with an I. Today I am talking about the Machiavelli mind, advanced samurai code of honor, discipline, and morality. Advanced samurai code of honor, discipline, and morality. This talk is going to be broken up into multiple podcasts as a mini series because there is just too much ground to cover, and I think it's critical and it's important and it's urgent that you get all of it. So just know that this is the first of many parts because I don't want to try to pack everything into one podcast. It will be broken up into multiple talks. So the Machiavelli mind. For those who are not familiar, you definitely have to get your hands on The Prince, Machiavelli. That is required reading. I remember when I attended Phillips Exeter Academy the summer of '96, and I'm dating myself, but it is a part of required canon reading, The Prince, Machiavelli. If you have not read it, put down the magazines, put down the smut. You have to read this book. Because here's the thing, and just more importantly, you don't have to be a warrior or samurai to benefit from living a virtuous life that follows along the lines of the Bushido code or being in alignment with the code of the samurai, or even studying Machiavelli and the principles of Machiavelli. But I'm going to touch on that a little bit today. I'm not going to go through all the virtues and all of the principles because I'm putting that on you. You should read that for yourself, for your family, for your future, so you can win. But I will say this, I'm touching on this at this time because on August 13th, Saturn goes direct. And so you're saying, what does that have to do with any of this shit like Saturn, Bushido, Machiavelli, what the fuck, right? But I'm touching on this because as we all felt earlier this year, and don't lie, you don't have to lie, but as we all felt earlier this year, we had many planets shift into retrograde. And so what that means is some things are put on hold, some things are pushed back, some things are thrown at us that we have to try to juggle it and address it. And Saturn was one of those planets. And so some of us lost jobs. Some of us had ugly breakups. Some of us lost loved ones, which took the very fabric of your existence and it shook it up. Now, this didn't happen to all of us, and I'm not saying that all these things happen to you, but typically when Saturn goes when Saturn goes retrograde, Saturn is not really felt until the cycle is complete. And this is because Saturn works on a deeper subconscious level rather than on a surface level. So what's real can stand pressure. You know, when Saturn is retrograde, you feel it in a real way. And Saturn comes to show you what's real. Because what's fake during a Saturn retrograde or Saturn return even, what's fake will fall away. Relationships, people who you thought were meant to be on your team, they will reveal themselves to be the charlatans that they are. They will reveal themselves. Your enemies will reveal themselves. You will break up with people who you thought were meant to be your partner on your team, but you soon clearly see that they're not fully for you. You will find out things. Things will be disclosed to you during these times. Okay, so that's why I'm talking about the Bushido code of the samurai and understanding the Machiavellian mind. We also experience this during our Saturn return, which is when you're roughly between the ages of 27 and 31. For some of us, it can come a little bit earlier, like age 26, but that's not typical. Typically, it's between 27 and 31 or 32. And it can spill out until maybe you're 33, sometimes 34 even. But for many of us, those years were a time of intense trauma, pain, but ultimate growth. And so if you haven't experienced it yet, if you're only 21 or 26, guess what? You're getting ready to experience your Saturn return. And if this doesn't make any sense to you, just do like you do anything else and Google it or Bing it or what have you. But keep on living. You won't be the same after you experience your Saturn return. So this is not about astrology. This is not about the zodiac. I was just making mention of that because, again, on August 13th, Saturn is going to move direct. And it is likely at this time you are going to come to some sort of understanding as to what Saturn has been trying to teach you. And so Saturn affects all of us differently. For me, it depends on where Saturn is in your chart, but ultimately it affects us differently. For me, Saturn comes up to show up and say, be a big girl. Put on your big girl panties and lift your head up and stiff chin, dry your tears and be a big girl. Get on your grown woman, right? So you're going to figure out what Saturn's trying to tell you. So everybody is different, but you must do the experience. You must do the experience. Some things cannot be read about, like for instance, sex, or or being intoxicated, being drunk, being on an intoxicant, a stimulant, anything that really has feeling. You can't learn about it in an intellectual way. You have to experience it. A hot day, a winter storm, a blizzard. You have to feel those things, right? So all planets are teachers. All planets are teachers. Mercury, Mars, even the moon, the sun. But Saturn's lessons, where are my Capricorns? They know what I'm talking about. Saturn's lessons are often the most well thought out, the most planned, and often some of the hardest. They're difficult. They're tough. And this is because Saturn so desperately wants you to understand the lesson the first time so you can graduate and move on to bigger and better things. Because a lot of us, oftentimes, many of us, we know a job is a shitty job. And until we get thrown on our ass and something really shakes us up, we'll just stay at that job, knowing that that job is not really for us. Some of us are in painful relationships, painful marriages, painful partnerships, and you just know that this is really not for you. You know in your heart of hearts that this is not, you're not being fed, you're not being nurtured, you're not being respected for some of us. And yet you stay because you feel like you should just stick it through and try to make it work. But Saturn will come and say, you know what? This is not working. You know this is not working. And sometimes the initial catalyst, the initial thing that has to happen to show you that is painful and it hurts and it's jarring and it's eye-opening. But ultimately, you're gonna grow. And so it's a beautiful thing. And so that's why we need Saturn. Like, we need that authority in our lives. But the brain, the brain learns in symbols and it stores information in pictures. And that's why the ancestors used hieroglyphs. That's why you see the Chinese characters, the ancient Japanese symbols and characters there. They don't have an alphabet per se. They have characters. Same with Hindi, Indian script. It's in pictures and characters. The ancient ancestors in Kemet and Nile Valley civilization, they use hieroglyphics. We see the hieroglyphs in the Mayan culture. We see characters, and that is because the brain learns in symbols. And so this is also why we dream in pictures, and nothing can be lost in translation or misinterpreted with a picture. You can't fuck up a picture. You either wake up from a dream like, oh shit, that scared the shit out of me, or you wake up like, wow, I don't understand what that meant, but I feel like, something, I need to do something different. I need to do something about this. Okay. And that is a symbol. That is symbolic. It is in pictures. So you won't be, there's no confusion. You won't be led astray. But again, when Saturn is in retrograde, he will be helping us to bring up some of those fears that, need to be cleansed so we can move forward to new levels. And Saturn will push you. But Saturn is not going to make you release anything that you're not ready to release. But at this time, we are past the middle of the year. We're actually closer to 2017 than we are to the beginning of 2016. And so at this time, you know what needs to be released without any type of doubt. You know who needs to be released out of your life. Either you're in denial, or you don't want to admit it, or you don't want to face it, or you don't want to deal with it, but you know what needs to be released. You know if a job is not for you, if a career path is not for you, if you're not feeling something with, whatever it is, and this is the time that you have to deal with that. And understand that, especially since we're talking about the Machiavellian mind, every tool is neutral, and it's how you use that tool. It's all about execution. As the NRA says, guns don't kill people, people kill people, right? Guns don't just shoot themselves. So every tool is neutral. It's how you use that tool. And so I say that to say some of the things I'm going to touch on today, I don't want you to think about it as, that's cutthroat as hell. But sometimes how many of you know you have to be cutthroat? Because you're going to be faced with cutthroat individuals who don't give a shit about you, your family, your future, or your livelihood. And you have to learn how to defend yourself. Some of us are too passive. We're too pansy. We're too, we shall overcome. And when you are faced with a wolf, or when you're faced with a lion, the time when you're faced with a wolf, that's not the time to be a sheep. That's not the time to be passive aggressive. That's not the time to turn tail. Okay, that's the time to be brave and courageous. So that's what I'm talking about and dealing with on today. So this is a time of warfare for many of us. If this doesn't apply to you, fine. Turn off the podcast. Go enjoy the rest of your day. But this is for those who feel that they are being attacked. Many of us are under attack, or will be under attack. This talk addresses how to handle the adversary, obstacles, conflict, and enemies, or just how to maintain while being under attack. Because a lot of us, your environment is your looking glass. Your environment is your looking glass. And outstanding leaders have outstanding mentors, coaches, and accountability partners that push, pull, and walk beside to help them reach their goals. For all of you who are watching the Olympics right now, you've witnessed Michael Phelps win 20 gold medals. He didn't do that. How many of you know he didn't do that by himself? He had coaches. He had people teaching him how to breathe correctly, how to eat properly before he gets in the water, how to the best strategies and tactics and techniques to push past the competition, right? Same thing for those, again, watching the Olympics. You've witnessed Simone Biles just dominate in gymnastics. How many of you know she has a masterful coach who has helped push her and propel her and carry her to those gold medals. So I'm not saying that she doesn't have the juice, because they have the juice. You're not going to get a gold medal or a bronze or silver medal unless you have the juice. But I'm saying you need to understand that to become that gold medal level, you have to have coaches, and you have to be coachable. The minute you're not coachable is the minute you fall off. I promise you. And your coaching can be books. Your coaching can be a real actual coach that you hire, that you pay for. It can be, in the form of these podcasts or videos and seminars and conferences. But again, always remain coachable. But the code I'm talking about today, the code deals with handling the following with grace and poise. Okay? Number 1, learning how to take responsibility for an area of your life that no longer feels good or makes sense. Again, a lot of us are in stale relationships that have long died. You're in a relationship that's dead on the vine. Dead on the vine. Some of us are in situations where it's time for you to say, you know what? This isn't working. No one wants to be man enough or woman enough or adult enough or transparent enough to say, this shit is broken, and let me move past it and either fix it, repair it, or get a new relationship. This code deals with moving through old, outdated habits from your past, particularly in areas surrounding love and relationships. I'm not going to go into details, but again, for those who I'm speaking to, I'm speaking to you because you're dealing with this shit right now, and you're dealing with, okay, I'm not really, I'm looking at the front door. Where I come from, we say I'm looking at the front door. That means, it's over. I'm ready to be out of this, but I don't really know how to do it, or I don't really have the courage. I don't really have the cojones, to leave, but I'm not feeling it anymore, right? You have to make that move, because if you don't, not only are you lying to yourself, you're being inauthentic, but you're holding that other person back. And you're holding back the person who could possibly come into your life and be the actual fit that you need. So you have to learn to move through those old, outdated habits. If it no longer fits, it must go. If it no longer works, if it's broken, you have to move on. Learning who to trust, and perhaps seeing the truth revealed about someone close to you. For many of us, it's painful when you see that the person or a person in your life who you valued, who you respected, who you loved even, really is, not about you. They're not for you. They weren't true to who they projected themselves or presented themselves to be. And it's painful. It's painful. But you have to learn to say, you know what? Thank you for showing me who you really are. As they say, when people show you who they are, believe them. Don't try to Photoshop out the shit you don't like about them. They're showing you who they are. And so many people will reveal themselves as a snake, and you have to realize that you're dealing with a snake and deal accordingly. This code is about strengthening your intuition and learning how to trust and believe in yourself more. This is about experiencing failure, quote unquote failure, so you can work out where you need to focus your attention, particularly for those in your career. So for many of you, it's not working for you at the job, right? You were promised a raise, or you thought you were going to get a bonus. You thought you would probably be promoted by now. And guess what? It's not happening. you were lied to, or it might even be that your performance is not up to par for their standards, or it may just be, you're being discriminated against. I don't know what the particulars are, but understand that failure is so critical. It's so important because we learn so much. So don't be afraid to fall on your face. That's how you learned how to walk. I promise you when you were a baby crawling around as a toddler, you got up on your 2 feet and you fell on your butt. And you got up again and you fell on your butt. And that probably happened a few times before you just went, ham and just started running, right? But the point is, you needed to do that so you could be like, you know what? Okay, I fell. That happened. It hurt, but now I learned how to fall a little bit better. I learned how to fall in such a way that it doesn't hurt as much as it hurt the past couple of times I fell. And so you got to take those concepts and use it in this time while you're failing. This code is about adjusting your work-life balance and creating more time for creativity and relaxation. It's about assessing the power struggles in your life and whether you are seeking power out of fear. Many of us, we don't know how to deal with fear, and I'll be the first to tell you, you have to handle fear in one way and one way only, and that is you face it head on. You look fear in the eyes. You stand up to it. You don't turn your back to it. You look it square in the eyes. You square up with fear. You really have to square up with fear. You can't cower, because fear will appear a lot bigger. Whatever it is you're afraid of. It may be you're afraid of losing your job. You're afraid of loss of income. You're afraid of getting sick. You're afraid of dying. You're afraid of catching a disease. You're afraid of what could happen to your child. You're afraid of being lied to or cheated on or manipulated. You're afraid of being played. Whatever your fear is, whatever your fear is, you have to learn to stare it square in the face. And you will see it for the coward it truly is, because fear plays on the mind. This is about facing your insecurities in order to be free of them. And just like fear, insecurities, you have to face them and handle them and deal with them, unpack them, maneuver with them. Play with them like you play with Legos. Play with your insecurities like you play with Play-Doh. Play with your insecurities like they are a game of Call of Duty, or they're a game on PS3. You have to play with them like you're playing with acrylics or oil on a canvas. You play with them, unpack them, and look at them for who they are and what they are. And that is how you move past them. That means deal with them. Don't avoid them. Don't try to overcompensate for some shit. Handle them. Square up with your insecurities. This code is about finding a new sense of independence and not relying on others. How many of you know you are never free until you're able to stand up on your own 2 feet? Not depending on mom, not depending on daddy, not depending on grandma, big mama, not depending on your husband, not depending on your wife or your girlfriend, damn sure not depending on the government or the man or the system, but standing up on your own too. And so that is the only way to independence, is when you're standing up on your own too, meaning I don't need anybody. It's beautiful to have people and support and to have that network, but you really can't even get ahead. You really can't even defend yourself on a bare basic level until you're independent. Because otherwise, life will beat the shit out of you. Just bills, utility bills, taxes, everyday living will wear and tear you up, right? So you have to be independent and know how to just deal, even if it's a meager existence. I used to say, even if you have a futon and you're renting a room, baby, it's your futon and it's your room. You know, you may drive a piece of shit, a hoopty, but it's your hoopty, right? And so that's all that matters. Eventually, you know, you'll move up and you'll get better and do better, but it's all about independence and not depending on and relying on and leaning on someone else or begging for someone to help you all the time. Because guess what? When you depend on people, you give them the power to let you down. When you depend on one income and that one income fails you, it's your fault because you gave them the power to disappoint you, to upset you, to let you down. And that's why, you know, as I've talked about before, you have to always have multiple sources of income. This deals with feeling the need to withdraw or spend time alone. If you feel, you know what, I need to just push away from everybody, then push away from everybody. Take some time for yourself. You know, it may require taking a little road trip. It doesn't have to be anything all long and drawn out. You know, you could take a weekend and just go drive up to the mountains or drive to the valley, drive to the beach, drive to the forest. You know, get you a little room, a little Motel 6. You know, take some time for yourself. Take some books, take your iPad, you know, watch some movies, read, listen to some music, some great music, get out on the open road and clear your mind. You don't always have to be up under people, even if those people are your kids or your parents or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your partner or whatever. You know, sometimes you need to just be in solitude. And this is about releasing self-criticism or feeling exhausted from the stress or pressure you place on yourself. Remember, I said what's real can handle the pressure. What's real can handle pressure. So again, whatever is being tested, it's being tested for a reason at this time. So again, the Machiavelli mind deals with the ends justifying the means. And so this means you must be like a centaur. And that's half human and half beast. You know, you see a lot of memes, you see a lot of comments in social media where people are like, oh, you know, that's savage. I'm savage. But do you really know what it means to be savage? Do you know what a real savage looks like? The definitive savage character or psyche. You have to embody your humanity and be empathetic, right? Be benevolent, be understanding, but you have to be able to also, in that same body, in that same entity, be able to defend yourself. Because sometimes the wiles of the enemy will be subtle. And sometimes the enemy is so subtle and so savvy and so crafty that you'll think they're your friend. You'll think that they're for you, that they're on your team. And how many of us know, looking back in retrospect, you know, you have to be able to know your enemy to defend yourself. But there will be times when you must use your sword. Although, you know, the goal is to avoid this at all costs. They talk about that in The Art of War. Sun Tzu talks about, you know, you want to avoid fighting. You want to avoid altercation and confrontation. You want to avoid drama. But sometimes you cannot avoid drama. Sometimes drama comes to you. Sometimes no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, no matter how positive you're being, no matter how passive and passive aggressive you're being, no matter how zen and just chill you're being, people will bring you drama. You know, sometimes you're just having a beautiful, wonderful day driving down the street and someone with road rage will just cut your ass off, right? No fault of yours. You didn't do anything to invite it. You didn't do anything to attract it. They're having a bad day and they are going to make sure their misery is felt by everyone around them. So you have to learn how to, that's just a small example. But what happens when somebody's rage and misery is spilling over on you at work, right? Motherfuckers just keep trying you, right, on the job. What do? They keep trying you. Or somebody keeps testing your patience. Because they're going to test your patience. Somebody is going to test you. They're going to test your patience. I don't care how peaceful you are. I don't care how beautiful and loving you are, and how God-fearing and godly you are. You are going to be tested. You are going to be put to the test. You're going to be tried. Okay? So, understand, there will be times when you must use your sword. And Bushido, I love Bushido, because Bushido is a code unuttered and unwritten. And it was an organic growth of decades and centuries of military career. And in order to become a samurai, this code has to be mastered. And remember, I said, you don't have to be a samurai. You don't even have to be a warrior to observe these things and use these things in your everyday, day-to-day life. At work, on the job, at home, with your family, with your loved ones, in relationships, just dealing with, people, right? People will just bring you so much shit sometimes. And sometimes you just need a code of ethics to deal with people, right? So I say you can use this code to not only handle adversaries, but to advance. And that's what this is about. So the Bushido code is typified by 8 virtues. Those are righteousness, courage, benevolence, respect, sincerity, honor, loyalty, and self-control. Again, righteousness, courage, benevolence, respect, sincerity, honor, loyalty, and self-control. Now pause. Think about, those concepts, what they mean to you and what they mean for you. But this code is about power. This code is about wisdom. So you have to have an unfettered mind. You have to have an unfettered mind. There's a quote that says something like, if you follow the present day world, you will turn your back on the way. If you would not turn your back on the way, do not follow the world. And that was a quote by Takuan Soho from the Unfettered Mind. That's actually a book. And it's about the writings from a Zen Master to a Master Swordsman. But going back to the Machiavelli mind, Niccolo Machiavelli, he wrote his famous dissertation on power, The Prince, in 1517. And his thoughts on the rules of power actually encompass the struggles for every level of power, from the proletariat struggling in the corporate world to strategies performed by the world leader in the 16th century up until now. The Prince is actually the greatest single study of power on record. A lot of you didn't know anything about Machiavelli until Tupac brought it into pop culture and the popular lexicon. But Machiavelli, again, The Prince, has been required reading in Ivy League. I know certainly many Ivy League syllabi, but again, you gotta read this book. It's a real quick read too. It's a real thin book. You can read it in one sitting. You can read it like on a Saturday morning, go to Starbucks or whatnot. Or just, if you have some time, turn off the TV, turn off your notifications and just get it in. I promise you, it's going to enrich you. But the philosophies set in The Prince, known as Machiavellianism, have been viewed as evil throughout the centuries. But as most business leaders and politicians know, Machiavelli has only defined the physics of power. In essence, basically, something is only as evil as you interpret it to be. And in spite of that, you are going to face evil people and evil entities throughout your life. So you better know how to deal with them. In other words, I don't care again how godly you are, God-fearing you are, you better learn how to deal with a demon, right? I don't care if you are a sheep, I don't care if you are a dove, you better learn how to deal with a wolf. You better learn how to deal with a lion, because you're gonna face them. They may come to you in the form of an obstacle. They may come to you in the form of sickness or disease. They may come to you in the form of an adversary or enemy, but they will come to you in your life. And this talk helps to get you over the hump to deal with these personalities. So, Machiavelli, the prince, Machiavelli, The Prince was written as a guidebook for the prince at the time, Medici, I believe Lorenzo Medici. And it was to promote himself, into the political arena of Italy. I'm just giving you a little backstory or whatnot. But he analyzed power and the way Italy could gain enough to become its own state and keep control. And his extensive explanations were driven by his own fascination with power and his desire for an independent Italy. So, The Prince goes directly to the unarguable axioms of power for the leader to follow like a strategy. And Machiavelli was only interested in directly discussing the elements of power. So, again, this is about the art of ultimate control. Control is an issue in our relationships, whether those are career relationships, intimate love, sexual relationships, intimacy. It's human nature to, abhor feelings of helplessness and to strive for power. Even in physical, intimate relationship, there's always somebody who has a little bit more power than the other person. My mother used to say, it's always better to be in a relationship with someone who's more in love with you. Because if you're more in love with that man, or if you're more in love with that woman, guess what? They can break your heart. They have the power to break your heart. They have the power to hurt you because they hold the keys. They hold the cards, right? That means you feeling them more than they feeling you. They could walk out and find somebody else and move on with life. And you're just like, ouch, right? You'll be okay. You'll cope. But you're the one who's going to say, ouch. You want to be the person who's in a position to not say, ouch. But your actions can potentially make someone else say, ouch. That's what that's about. But your task as a strategist is twofold at all times. At all times. This is the Machiavelli mind. It's for grown folks. Okay? If you're not grown, this is not even for you right now. Go watch the Simpsons or something. But your task is twofold. First, recognize the struggle for control in all aspects of life. And never be taken in by those who claim they are not interested in control. Because those are the first motherfuckers who will cross you, cut you, and manipulate you. And I'm telling you this from experience. But Machiavelli, if you go on and get your read on, let's face in a book and read Machiavelli, you will know what I'm talking about. But this art is infinitely applicable to the battles of everyday life. Again, how to deal with everything from the person who has road rage, who just cut you off on the highway, to your children trying to play you, they won't listen to you, to the folks at the job, they keep eating your healthy choice. They keep drinking your coffee creamer. They're playing you. They told you they were going to give you a raise. They told you they were going to give you an advance. And they told you there would be a promotion and a bonus. And it's not happening. They're trying to play you. Bushido, the art of the samurai. Okay, advancing and holding your peace. Knowing when to hold your peace and when to pull out your sword. That's what the Machiavelli mind is about. So with no further ado, I'm going to touch on these bullet points, these principles, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about it next week, because again, I don't want to try to pack so much into all the ground that I need to cover. But number one, keep them on their heels. Make your aggressive move to seize the initiative before your enemy or your adversary or an obstacle makes a move. Never be reactive. You always want to be proactive. This is chess, not checkers. You always want to make the first move. So, case in point, stay ready. You don't have to get ready. What does that mean? Take care of your shit, right? Take care of your car so it doesn't break down on you. Make sure your brakes are on point. Make sure you have your oil change. Make sure you have your tune-up. Make sure your tires are aligned. Make sure you have enough air and the air pressure is good in your tires. That's being proactive. So you don't get caught off guard and get caught slipping. Don't drive your car to E. You want to make sure you keep, fuel in your car so you don't get in a situation where you have to pull over because you're out of gas in the middle of nowhere. That's an example of being proactive, so you don't have to worry about car problems, right? Well, but you can use this in your relationships as well. You want to be proactive, meaning you are the one who, and I know this is really Machiavellian, and I know it sounds really roguish, but to those who know what I'm talking about, when you're faced by a wolf, you're faced with a lion, and you're a sheep, you don't want to be the weaker one. You want to be the proactive, stronger one. So again, you want to be the one to make the first move. Now, I'm not saying that first move needs to be dramatic and painful and but you want to be proactive, not always reacting to what someone else is doing to you or against you. Shift the battlefield. Shift the battlefield. You control the dynamic. Otherwise, you get played. You don't take anything else away from this talk. Write this down, tweet this, Facebook this, make a meme out of it, quote it, but you control the dynamic. Otherwise, you get played. Period. In other words, you have to learn to make situations and obstacles observe your rules and your philosophy. I like to say, I run my house. I run my house. My house doesn't run me. My household doesn't run me. My child isn't running all over me and telling me, Mom, I hate you. I wish you would die. Those things don't happen in my reality. I run my life. I don't allow anyone or anything to run shit in my life. And I'm getting you to you have to shift the battlefield. In other words, oftentimes, people will try to get you to come onto their court, onto their field, so they can have home court advantage. But you have to always make sure that the battle is fought on your court, in your field at all costs. And that means you control the battlefield by, if you see something is stirring up or starting, you have to kind of take the reins and make sure it goes the way you want it to go. It can only be as bloody as you allow it to be. Somebody can't, people can't play you unless you bend over and allow them to play you. No one can manipulate you or fool you or trick you unless you play the fool and don't pay attention to what they're doing. Half the battle is just paying attention to what people are doing. Number 3, that's assume passive control. The ultimate form of domination is to make those on the other side think they are the ones in control. Allow them to think they're running shit. Allow your enemies to think they have it all together and they're running it, and it's on their, it's on their field, it's on their court. But ultimately, passively, in subtle ways, you have to take control. And that may mean being deceptive. Again, you don't want to be the sheep faced with a wolf. You don't want to be the little mongoose facing a lion, right? So I'm trying to prevent you from being the sheep who gets slaughtered by the wolf. And that means, again, sometimes, not all the time. This is not all the time. These are for particular situations. Again, when you're under attack, when someone is attacking you, when you are faced with an adversary or an enemy or obstacles. Again, sometimes you have to use your sword. And so this means that there are times in your life where you will have to be deceptive. You'll have to be deceptive. And how many of us know we live in a system that is very deceptive, and it doesn't give two shits about you and your feelings, right? So you have to learn to, again, assume passive control. Number 4, focus on your greater goal, your destiny. Your destiny. Always ask yourself, is this in alignment with my greater goal, my destiny? Ultimately, I don't care if it's a relationship or a career. That was one thing that helped me to get away from the rat race, to get away from the 9 to 5 and to start my own business and to be independent was, did I go to school for this? Did I get a degree for this? Did I have to take out all those student loans for this? And so you have to always be asking yourself, is this person in alignment with my future? Well, what I see for myself? Is this experience? Is this career? Is this in alignment with my greatest goals and my long-term 10-year plan? Sometimes you have to ask, will this matter 10 years from now? Some things will. Some things certainly will. But always be asking yourself questions that focus on your greater goal, your destiny. And you have to begin with a clear, detailed, purposeful goal in mind, one rooted in reality, and rely on what you control and only what you control. And so if you focus on the things that you control, I promise you will get ahead. You will advance farther than anybody you know. You will advance farther and faster than most people, because most people are focusing on shit they do not have control over. You don't have control over who gets elected president of your country. You don't have control over the price of tea in China. You don't have control over the cost of petroleum, the gas prices. You don't have most of the shit you see and face. You don't have any control or power over it. But the little few things you do have control over, you have control over your thoughts. Each day you need to choose your thoughts the way you choose your underwear. You need to choose your thoughts. Choose how you're going to be. Command your day each day. Every morning when you wake up, you have control and power over what you will think, what you will feel. You allow somebody to knock you off your square, or you don't. But you have the control over that. And so what you do have control over, master that. Hone in on that. Because there's so many things you don't have control over. So as of today, don't even get worked up over it if you can't control it. Number 5, widen your perspective. Everything has a reason. A causal chain of relationships that made it happen. And so you have to dig deep into that reality instead of seeing only the surface things. You have to learn to dig deep and get perspective. Put shit in perspective. You have to know when to say, okay, I'm in my feelings, and get out of your feelings and put things in perspective and see, why is this happening the way it's happening? and take control. Number 6, know your enemy. Know your adversary. Know your devices, your obstacles. Know those things that are your Achilles heel. And for many of us, we're just defeated before the race even begins because we don't even know what our devices are. We think people who are our enemies, they don't give a shit about you. Not only do they not care about you, they don't support you. They don't support your art form. They don't support your craft. They don't support your career. They don't support your purpose. They don't support your calling. But they are acting against you. And anybody who leaves you more stressed out, if you're in a happy mood and you deal with them, and then your energy is drained and you're stressed out and you're angry and depressed and mad and cussing, and that's not a friend. That's an enemy. They may even look like your mother. They may be your mother. But if you're left worse off for the wear when you deal with them, that is an obstacle. So you have to know your enemy. And most of us do not know who our enemies are. And the greatest power you could have in life is knowledge of those around you. The ability to read people like a book. And one thing I've learned over the years is how to read people like a book. One thing you're not going to do is you're not going to play me. You're not going to play me because I'm going to read you. I may not say anything. I may play along and act like, again, I'm going to play passive aggressive when it's time to play ball. But I'm always 2 steps and 2 moves ahead. I'm always thinking 2 moves ahead. Understand, day in and day out, people emit signals that reveal their intentions and deepest desires. And if you don't pick them up, it's because you're locked up in your own world. Sometimes get your head out of your ass, get your head out of the clouds, and pay attention to the people around you. Watch them. Listen to them. Listen to how they talk. Listen to their language. Listen to their body language. How many of you know you can listen to somebody's body language? Because somebody can be saying one thing with their mouthpiece, but the body is saying something totally in opposition to what they're speaking physically with their mouthpiece. But if you're texting and playing Pokemon Go and you're on Facebook with your phone and you're tweeting and you're doing all of this, and the person in front of you, they're giving you body language, but you're not paying attention, you lost. And lastly, number 7, in terms of enemies, clear and present danger. Clear and present danger. Hit them where it hurts. Again, I'm not saying go out and just be this way. Don't be messy. Don't allow that to be your default setting. But what I'm saying is, when you are the sheep and you are faced with a wolf, or you are faced by the lion, or you're faced with an enemy, someone bigger than you, stronger than you, who is trying to manipulate you or even take you out, you have to learn to hit them where it hurts. And you can't be afraid or ashamed to aim below the belt when in warfare. Especially when it comes to family, your well-being, your finances, anything or anyone who threatens your family, your well-being, your finances, your loved ones. You have to know when to use divide and conquer tactics, and you have to be aware of when those strategies are being used against you. So that's all I have for today. We're going to pick up on the rest of the Machiavellian mind next week. Stay strong during these times, folks. Saturn is real, but it's your friend ultimately. You know, it's tough love. And tough love doesn't feel good when you're going through it, but you look back on it with great admiration and respect. So I say to you, keep a stiff upper lip. Put on your big girl panties. Put on your big boy underwear. Man up. You know, get on your grown woman. Hold your head. And I will talk to you next week. Peace. Blessings. See you next week.